Welcome to the UCI Gravel Race at the Gralloch. Well, I don't know if I heard this right, but this is supposed to be the largest UCI gravel qualifying event in the world.
Really?
That's what they said, I think. Day before, gonna check out the course. I've already got my number.
93.
That's the position I'll finish.
Nah, you'll be alright.
So that's what I got to look out for tomorrow, is the white numbers, because I know that's the race that I'm in, which is the elite race. I want to have some fun and experience it. It's beautiful weather, very uncharacteristic weather, I would say, for Scotland, right? I'm not judging. It's just, it's beautiful. It's 25 degrees. But yeah, I'm going to go and check out the first part of the course, which is actually a climb, a long climb. So I might end up staying with the group a little bit longer than I expect. And then there's a descent after it, which I should probably look at. Enjoy the video as a newbie in the elite category, taking on this race for the first time.
Perfect is mine, come on, it's come to me.
It is written on my bike.
I'm Miles, I just watch your YouTube.
Miles, thank you for saying hello.
That's a blast from the past. Been watching you since you were a kid, you were camera racing. Fair play to everything you do.
I'm surprised you got signal up here.
I might not. I might. There's a picture of you in the break with Damien Shaw in your JLT gear.
Was it like a flashback?
And your little short socks. The Ross is on this week.
Oh yeah,
Ross
it is.
Dalton. So,
Yeah. I'll have a look when I
I
get
came up
back.
on the ferry. Yeah, go to Sticky Bottle and you're on the main page. Good luck tomorrow.
Cool. Thank you, you too.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. Well, Robert, that was really nice to meet you. And your lads from Ireland. Thank you for saying hello.
Oh mate, I did it myself.
So what are you running pressure then? Because
I'm on about 20.
They weren't necessarily the ones
Five from here?
yeah.
I've got 45.
but they were
I'll crack on. Nice one. I'll see you tomorrow.
All ready for tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, I've just done well, the first climb, the first descent.
It's that left into the climb, that first left into that first run is going to be
I know.
nuts, isn't it?
Well, I'll attack before that bit. Yeah. So I know a really good place to start this video. I was nearly in the wrong race to begin with. So I told you I entered the Elite Gravel Race. Well, there was a little bit of confusion when I went to the start line in the morning, and I actually ended up in the age category 19 to 34 years old. And luckily I turned and I asked the rider next to me if this was the Elites, and he turned and just said, heck no. So I quickly made my way over to the Elite pen and all was fine. But that was the first drama moment of the day. Now on the start line, I actually got talking to a bunch of riders, one being Ben Thomas, riding for Ribble Outliers. Ben's a very successful off-road rider in his own right before even gravel became a thing. But there were some strong British riders at this event. There was Matt Holmes, of course, who'd won this event in the past and fellow Factor rider. There was Cam Mason and Thomas Main, both cyclocross legends. And there are of course riders from the likes of Whole Factory Racing and Wheelbase, which are some big British elite level teams. Now in terms of overseas riders, the names you probably recognise, such as Freddie Ovet, Nathan Haas, Ian Boswell, Peter Vakoch. As you can probably tell, this is a pretty stacked elite field. And there's little me in the back. So I entered the elite race category simply because of my racing background. I thought the elite category is where I should be racing, and I didn't really think twice about entering my age category, if I'm honest. It wasn't really about qualifying for me, it was just about the experience. So I don't think it really matters which category I entered. But let me know what you think. If I'm really new to this discipline, do you think I should enter my age category? So let's get into the race. We started out on a road section, and it was uphill. Quite considerably uphill too. Around about 15 to 20 minutes was spent at just about threshold for me, and that was about 360 watts. Now one thing I certainly picked up on that I struggle with is actually riding hard uphill off-road. It's all very well and good pushing out 360 watts, but if you're on a very rough section of road, your tyres could be skipping and you're actually not really going anywhere. So as a newbie, this is all things that I'm learning as part of racing. Because racing these types of races are pretty much like racing road races, but off-road. So the top of the first road section, we're only a couple of minutes in, but there was a big fight for the first corner onto the first section of gravel. Again, it was all uphill, and moving up was extremely difficult. and could see a long string of riders in front of me. But we're on my favourite terrain, so I just settled in and just made sure I could keep the group within my sights. I wasn't going to panic. On reaching the top of this climb, however, we had the first descent. And it was where I really noticed the difference between myself and people with a lot more confidence, a lot more understanding, and a lot more bravery when it comes to descending off-road. Something that I've really just got to practice if I want to get better at. But I made it off that descent and actually started to make some progress. I was in a little group and I stayed with that group for a good while until eventually we got to another descent and they left me again. However, for the sake of comparison, I found an interesting Strava segment that I thought I would show you that takes into consideration the first climb, the first descent, and then the long rolling, slightly downhill section after it. Now from this event, I was 29th over this segment out of about 1,600 people, and about 2 minutes down on the speed at which the front group were kind of going, which isn't too bad, but it goes to show and set the trend for the rest of the event. The great thing is for me, of course, that this is a voyage of discovery in terms of improving my technical aspect and my equipment too. These things have lots of scope for improvement, I believe, and fitness wise, I don't think I'm far off being competitive at the front of one of these events. So it's encouraging signs that the things I can improve are things that can be improved. I'm sure that goes for a lot of us too. So bike wise, I was pretty happy with my setup. I was riding my Factor LS, not the Austro Gravel, which is their top of the range gravel bike, which does mean I have quite a limited tyre clearance to work with. I was running 40mm Continental Terra trails with 25 psi in the front and 30 psi in the rear. I also had some tyre liners or inserts, and they were set up tubeless, of course. Now I didn't have one issue with my tyres throughout the event. In fact, I felt like grip was good. I felt like rolling resistance was good. I was certainly on the narrower side when I looked around and I could see other people with quite fast tyres. Now this wouldn't be a gravel race video without some tyre controversy. I was running 40mm tyres, which I know I could have gone wider, but I was limited by tyre clearance on my frame set. I would, however, in the future, love to experiment with some maybe Continental Race Kings or anyway, something much wider. Because one place I feel like it could definitely help me with my confidence off-road is certainly on descents. But, you know, we all know the benefits of running a much wider tyre now. I don't need to tell you that. Now I thought I would address the 40mm size elephant in the room early before the comment section got as twitchy as me on one of these fast gravel descents. So moving into the middle phase of the race, there was quite a few short, sharp, steep climbs with equally steep descents. The gravel was never the same. It was sometimes rocky, where I could see people were getting visible punctures and mechanicals. Now I didn't actually see another rider for a good while. When we hit the road section and I got into a bit of a groove, it was maybe about 20 to 30 minutes before I saw another rider. And I caught myself a quick glance back. I could see this one rider, then I could see a massive group. And I assumed this massive group was the age category riders catching us. But as it turns out, it was actually more elite riders that had formed a group pretty much off the very first climb of the day, about an hour ago. Now, although I was getting caught, I kind of felt really satisfied with the fact that I was able to hold them off for so long, considering there'd been such a while since we dispatched that first climb, probably about 30 to 40 kilometers ago. And this part of the course was really beautiful. It was wide open, in fact, reminded me very much of the places that I ride in South Wales. So if you live down the south of the UK, you're looking for something very similar to what we had at the Gatehouse Fleet, get yourself over here in my neck of the woods. So one of the biggest online bike shops in the UK, Treads, sent me the Met Manta helmet, which I used at the Gralloch. All black, slick, to match my Rule 28 gravel skin suit, which they sent me as well. Both pieces of equipment performed impeccably. The helmet, I was worried I would start to overheat because on gravel I'm going a little bit slower, but actually ventilation was great, even in the high 20 degrees Celsius. Fitted really well and was very, very comfortable. And what can I say about the gravel suit? I felt good. My hydration pack fitted perfectly in the back. You can see why Dylan Johnson wears it. Enough said. But I really enjoyed riding around this area. And although the group passed me and I couldn't hold their wheel, I did then catch another group and hung on to the coattails of that one on a very dusty log pile fill section, which really made me feel like I was in Strada, like in Italy on the dust roads. And the irony, of course, is that on the Sunday, the Giro d'Italia was also on the same roads. And one tip someone gave me was to wear clear lenses, because it would really help with like the dust. It would really help with riding through the trees and the shaded sections, because sometimes when you're wearing glasses, the tint can sometimes affect how fast your eyes can react to the changes in light. So going clear lens meant I didn't have that problem actually at all. And there were some really technical like double track sections where you'd expect some off-road vehicles to maybe venture down. And again, a beautiful part of the countryside. But it was a bit boggy, bizarrely, for how dry it was. It was very narrow. You also had to avoid clattering into the bushes that were overhanging into the route. But again, this section, I saw numerous people stop with punctures, some kind of mechanical. I could tell some people had been there for a while because they'd actually, had the tire off. Because as you'll see at the end of this video, there were lots of people walking. So I guess now we come to the pivotal moment of the video. The omen that I was talking about. Well, I got to the bottom of this big descent and I knew the climb coming up was a crucial one. I actually marked it on my race notes on my stem. Pretty steep in places, but just gradual, and it was going to mark the start of what is pretty decisive final 40 or so kilometers. And I've been saving a bit of energy in reserve so I could tackle this section and potentially make up time and positions. Because also what I'm learning at gravel racing is you could feel like you're well out of the race by 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden everything can come back together again. Or a couple of riders get punctures and you move up a couple of places. It's never over till it's over, quite literally. So I was quite happy to settle into my pace and to do what I needed to do. And on this last section, I was ready to do that. So I got to the bottom of the descent, and as I was pulling around to take the turn to go up the climb, I reached for the small ring and nothing happened. I changed my gears at the back and nothing happened. I looked down, nothing was moving. Everything had gone from working totally fine to not working at all. So I rolled around the corner, and in my head for a split second I thought, I can make it up this climb. I can do it in the 46-13 gear that I'm in, no problem. So I got off, I contemplated what was ahead of me, and I realized that if I wanted to finish and get to the finish in 50 kilometers time, I'm gonna have to walk pretty much every climb in that gear, because there's no way I can ride. And then I'm going to be freewheeling or pedaling on every descent. And there's not really much flat between here and the finish. So I'm pretty much either going to be walking or I'm going to be freewheeling. So I tried to troubleshoot my gears there and then, but as it turns out, the battery was flashing red. Now I know what you're going to say, that I hadn't charged my gears. Well, I did the week before. However, now on one hand, I'm hoping that I plugged it in to charge the gears, but I actually didn't charge them. Now I hope it's that, because I don't really want to fork out money on a new battery. On the other hand, it could be that they did charge and I didn't check to double check that they have charged, and the battery, which is quite old, is on its way out. Now before you say anything, I definitely charged them. I definitely plugged them in. But yeah, now it's quite funny in a way that the whole event has a wonderful service on hand called tech boxes. And along the route, there's usually every 10 or so kilometers, there's a box that has like spare tires, spare tubes, things of that nature, tire levers, Allen keys, whatever. Obviously they won't have a charging cable for an old GRX Di2. And they also won't have electricity either. So that was my race effectively over. I could have carried on, of course, but it would have taken me a long time to get back, given the fact that I would be walking up every climb. and some of them were 3-4 kilometers long. So I decided to ride 1.5 kilometers to the main road. Luckily, I was at a part of a route where I could get access to a road really quickly, and I headed straight back. It took me about an hour. I met a number of good people along the way who were in a similar state of misfortune, and we shared stories. Do you know, seeing people walking as I was riding back, and they'd obviously succumbed to various mechanicals, it's definitely a reminder that this discipline of the sport is a very, very unforgiving one. You know, the distances, you know, this was only 110 kilometers, but you look at Unbound in the US and plenty of others, the Tracker, they're such long events, and you have mechanicals, they can severely affect the race, but it swings and roundabouts. You know, you could have a mechanical really early on and you could gradually get yourself back into the race, and then someone else could have a mechanical and you could be well ahead of them. There's always something happening. It's very dynamic racing, gravel racing, and I can see why it's so popular. You know, and I know I didn't have a great day. I DNF'd, I didn't finish, I didn't get a finisher photo, I didn't get a medal, I didn't get that kind of buzz, that high that you get when you finish one of these events, and I share that experience now with many others. You know, I posted on Instagram recently that, you know, it obviously didn't end very well, and the number of you that could relate to that, you know, was staggering. It's not like in road racing, it's very hard to explain, but you wouldn't get that connection in road racing unless there was, you know, sadly a mass pileup. Everyone can have their misfortunes, and there were even guys at the front of the race. The race winner, Peter Vakoch, actually had a mechanical not far from the finish, managed to fix it quite quickly. I think he plugged the tyre and then kept rolling, and they managed to win. And like I said, even though I didn't finish, I still felt like I really enjoyed my experience there, and it was a vibe, and there is a vibe, and it's why people keep coming back, I think. So I think I'm gonna have to go back next year for redemption, and hopefully we can tweak some things and I can get practicing and improving my technical aspect of this sport, and maybe see if I can come back and, you know, put down a pretty good result. Because looking at the results, I can see where I could have been roughly, and I think maybe in the 30 to 40th position would have been a pretty good bet as to where I would have finished based on where I was when I stopped and I saw the riders that were going past. I recognized them. But who knows? It is a bit of an unknown. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this video too, even if I didn't actually finish the event. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you made it this far, please like the video. Please subscribe if you're new. There's more content coming super fast, as next week we're going to be heading to France. So I will see you then. Take care.